Hey everybody, old nerd dude, back on YouTube doing my thing. Um, I wanted to post a video earlier in the week, but there was so much going on that I really didn't have time. Plus, I was waiting for the iPhone announcement or the Apple announcement, which occurred earlier in the week, and then Bungie did their announcement in regards to Destiny, and I was waiting to go see Superman versus Batman, which I saw today. So we're going to cover all that, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, and go from there. First thing we'll cover is the Apple event. Apple announced the big three takeaways from the Apple event are um, a smaller iPad Pro, a smaller iPhone, and a $50 price drop on the iWatch, along with some new bands for it. Um, I'll start with the iPad first. The iPad Pro is ridiculously huge if you've never seen one. So much so that my best advice I would give people, if you think about getting an iPad Pro, um, get an iPad Air because it's more powerful. It's a laptop, costs about the same amount of money. The only thing you lose is a stylus, which of course you can always get a trackpad with a pencil, plug into the USB or Thunderbolt port, and do it that way. Um, I think Apple has heard those complaints. In fact, I'm sure they have, which is why they came out with a smaller version of it, which is not a bad idea. I've always thought the iPad should have had a stylus all along anyway. So now you've got that as a reasonable option now. The other thing they announced was the what I call the iPhone Mini. Um, it's a really small iPhone. I don't know that there's much call for that. They said there at the event that there was. I don't know anybody who wants a smaller iPhone than what's currently available. It's also, I think, overpriced. They're charging, I want to say, like $399 for it. That thing shouldn't cost more than $200. I'm sorry, that's the way I feel about it. And then they announced the $50 price drop on the Apple iWatch. That's a product, and it's not just the Apple iWatch, it's the smartwatch market in general. I just don't get. To me, that is a solution looking for a problem to solve. Particularly with the Apple Watch, because you have to have an iPhone for it to sync up with to use with to make it work. Which I just don't get. Is it really that hard to reach in your pocket and pull out your phone and use it? I mean, give me a break. And I know very few people. In fact, I know one person I can think of that actually owns one. And to me, the bands, hey, we came up with more bands for this watch, is just kind of silly, but whatever. If that's your thing, then that's fine, and you have one and you like it. But I know a lot of people who bought them that are kind of like, yeah, it's neat, and that's it. It's something from what I've been told from people that do own them, is that it's something they could live without. It was kind of a luxury item that they splurged on, but it wasn't anything they had to have or that solved a a burning problem. The next thing I want to talk about, before I get off the Apple thing, Apple, I feel, has kind of lost their way since Steve Jobs died, which I was afraid was going to happen. They kind of seem adrift at this point, and I'm not sure what they could do to change that, really. Um, I've had Apple products in the past. I had an iPhone, original iPhone when it came out, thought it was great. I had several different generations of the iPhone because at the time Android hadn't matured to the point where I wanted to use it. I've had a few iPads, and I no longer have those. I still have my MacBook Pro, which I use, and it still, does everything I need to do. It's still fast. It's got an iCore 7 processor in it. I probably won't buy another one though. It's a great computer and it's solidly built, and Apple does build solid products. I've never seen them skimp on a product. When they build something, the hardware, from the component side of the hardware, it's rock solid. But yeah, I probably won't buy another one. I'm comfortable enough using Windows and with iOS now that yeah, I have no real burning desire to buy another Apple product, and I probably won't, not unless they come out with something really cool. And this is coming from a guy who was a big fan of the Apple II back in the day. And I remember working for a computer company in the mid to late 80s, and we were an Apple authorized reseller, which at the time actually meant something. It was actually hard to get that big sticker to put on your store window. And I was a big fan of the Apple II, the Apple II GS, and the Macs when they came out, and always have been. And I still am. I'm just to the point where, with the exception of the Mac Minis, I kind of think they're overpriced. The next thing I want to talk about is the Bungie Destiny announcement. They announced some new stuff to do in the game. They didn't announce anything that was going to fix the stuff that I think is broken in it. Mainly the matchmaking, looking for group functionality. There's still none in it. There's still not going to be any in it. Well, compared to Destiny, or Destiny compared to the Division, Destiny to me is a broken game. I'm not going to say the Division doesn't have some issues, but at least it feels like a fully functional game. And I was talking to somebody else over this past week that said they're probably not going to play Destiny anymore. They were like me. They put a lot of time in it. They had it on two different systems, the Xbox One and the PS4, like I did, and we're just kind of like done with it. Now, if they go and patch it and put in a matchmaking system, which I don't know how complicated that would be to do to an existing product now, this late stage in the game, I'd probably go back and play it more. So I guess what I'm going to do is wait for Destiny 2 to come out next year. I know Bungie has already said you'll be able to import your existing characters into it, which is cool. But if it doesn't have some type of matchmaking or group function in it, that's going to really, really hurt that game. And the next thing I want to talk about is when saw Batman vs. Superman. And this review is not going to have any spoilers in it, so don't worry about that. But I will say this: if you've seen the trailer, you've seen most of the movie. If you've watched all the trailers, those trailers revealed too much and kind of spoiled the movie, to be honest about it. I had a lot of reservations about this movie from the get-go, mainly because Zack Snyder directed it, and he also directed Man of Steel. I've never been a real big fan of anything Zack Snyder has done. I don't think he's a particularly good director. In fact, I think he's a bad director. That's just my opinion, but I've never liked anything he's done. I know everybody liked the 300. I thought the 300 had an interesting look to it. I didn't think it was a particularly good movie. This and Superman, or Man of Steel, I thought was an okay Superman movie, but I think the first two Christopher Reeves movies were much better. They had heart. Man of Steel didn't feel like it had very, very much heart in it, if you know what I mean. And this movie, even less. And this movie's got a really good pedigree. I mean, you've got those heroes in it. The plot's actually not a bad plot. And the acting's pretty good in it. Even Ben Affleck, who I'm normally not a fan of, does a really good job as Bruce Wayne Batman. And of course, what's his name that played Superman in the last movie's in it, and he does an okay job. The one thing I will say is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor is horrible. I remember leaving the theater earlier today, and people were commenting as they were leaving, was like, what was up with Lex Luthor? He was horrible. Jesse Eisenberg, I'm not going to say he's a bad actor, because I've never really seen him in anything other than this. He's probably a fine actor. He just shouldn't have been cast in this movie, in that part. And he shouldn't have been allowed to portray that character that way. It was completely off the wall. Other than that, I thought the acting performances were fine and the plot was fine. The writing could have probably used, the script and the writing probably could have used a little bit of work. But this movie, I went in with low expectations, and for me, even those were too high. Um, this is would be a good movie to rent when it comes out on DVD. I don't know that I would waste my time going and seeing it in a theater. I sat there for 3 hours and through the vast majority of the movie was bored. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can I be bored watching a movie with Batman and Superman in it? But particularly considering that's my thing. Superman, when I was a kid, was the first superhero I was really introduced to and thought he was just great. And I'm talking about the old Superman cartoon from the mid 60s, early 70s. And the same thing with Batman and the Adam West show. I thought that was great. And of course, now it's campy now, but back then, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, this is really cool. So I've been a fan of both characters for, years and years and years. And this film was a real big disappointment. Now, it's a setup film for the two Justice League movies that are going to come out, which Snyder's set to direct both of those. I'm really hoping Warner Brothers pulls him off of those. Because I don't think he's the guy for those movies. Like I said, I've never been impressed with any of his directing work, and I'm still not. And like I said, the plot was good. I was okay with the plot of the movie. It was just executed poorly. I'm hoping the Wonder Woman movie coming up, which I know Schneider's going to executive produce, but he's not going to direct, is better. Particularly since I think this will be her first time in an actual movie. So, like I said, I was real disappointed in it, and I had issues going into it when I know the movie first got announced, and I heard Zack Snyder was going to direct it. I'm like, I had concerns right off the bat, and unfortunately, those concerns became more than reality. Like I said, wait for it to come out on DVD. If you're a big comic book nerd like me, you'll probably go see it anyway. That's fine too. So anyway, that's the long and short of what all I had to say today. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate you doing that. It means a lot. If you haven't and you like what I'm doing here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to leave a comment if you think I'm wrong, or you think I'm right, or you think I missed something. And that's pretty much it. And I'll talk to you next time.